Ah, they've started playing. All right. E4, best by test. Oh, I can draw arrows. Okay. C5, the Sicilian defense. As seen in the game, everyone versus everyone. Welcome, everyone, to this very exciting rapid match. Imagine it's going to be a close one because they wanted to stream it and they wanted someone to commentate on it. Knight f3, very typical idea. Getting right down into an open Sicilian. These players are playing very quickly. It didn't tell me the time control, but it seems to be 25 plus 5. I guess we'll see that. Assuming we're having some latency issues. C takes d4 by far and away the most common and best move here for black. Don't want white to allow. Don't want to allow white to play d5. Okay, knight takes d4. We could see an early Kalashnikov with e5, or we could see knight f6 going for some classical or Sveshnikov type setups. Not familiar with the players, not familiar with their opening repertoire. Okay, so we do see knight f6. Very typical move in this position. The only move here for white is knight c3 to defend the pawn, activating a piece as well. F3 not too common, doesn't have a good reputation. Okay, so this is the big moment. Okay, we do see a Sveshnikov, knight db5 incoming. Trying to coordinate on this newly weakened d6 square, and then almost certainly black will play d6, allowing the queen to defend that square. This is happening, and I thought I wasn't recording my cursor, but it turns out I am. Is it too late to fix that? I wonder. It is not too late. Okay, I fixed it. Okay, I'm not familiar with bishop b4, but I don't think the check is too common here for white, because actually king e7 is a fine reply, and then suddenly the knight's attacked and the e-pawn is going to be attacked because the knight will have to move away. Okay, we are seeing this, and the computer is indicating that it is a mistake. King e7 is the best move here. Surprising, but I guess at best white can... Okay, so black doesn't know the best move, king e7. He decided to take the knight. King e7 was critical. I guess I can show a couple of moves here. So king e7, engine is indicating knight f5. I would probably take this bishop, rook takes c8, and then bishop d3 to defend the e-pawn as the knight is pinned. The knight is applying pressure there. This position is roughly equal because soon black can capture this knight and get in d5. No structural defect anymore, and black is okay there. I guess the players are not familiar with this line, but okay. We go back to the game here. So black decided to capture the knight instead, and this actually leads to a big advantage to white. White has obtained the bishop pair, and the queen on d6 interrupts castling. Black is going to have to play queen e7 to disrupt this active queen position, and then after we trade, white is saddling black with this backward pawn and enjoys a favorable advantage with the two bishops. King e7 was a big missed opportunity, fortunately, but we'll see how the game progresses. It looks like we got some moves in. Okay, so we do trade, and we do see bishop g5. This is a big plus to white. White is looking for knight d5 check now that the knight is pinned. If h6, white can play this intermezzo knight d5, taking advantage of the pin and looking to saddle black with weakened pawns. So, big plus to white early on. I think black should have taken a little bit more time and considered king e7 before taking on d6. But okay, we'll see how the game shapes up from here. Could be a while before we see him move. Probably h6, trying to disrupt this pin, trying to interrupt this pin. d6 also playable, trying to activate the bishop, give it some scope. But yeah, very simple plan here for white. He could look to castle queenside, or he could look to play bishop c4 and then king e2. It is an endgame. There are no queens. Some people wouldn't refer to this as an endgame with so many pieces on board, but the typical standard definition of an endgame is a position where queens have been exchanged. You can agree or disagree, but this is typically what we call it. Probably we're not going to see king f8. Engine is pointing out that king f8 is a move in this position, but very non-human to play in such a way. It's going to be difficult to get this rook out. Okay, choosing on knight d4. Engine is not a fan of knight to d4. I mean, the reason is very simple. It looks like white's just going to be winning a pawn here. Unless he's going to try king e6. I would be afraid, personally, to play king e6. The king looks rather exposed here, and that does allow knight c7 check. But, okay, we'll see how white responds to this. I am going to have to grab a beverage here in a moment. I did not grab one. White taking his time, coming up with a move here. Knight d5 check looks like the most obvious move for me. Might require some calculation. Black is threatening knight c2. It's debatable how useful this rook in the corner is, but okay, black is looking to pick up some material. But this threat is easily guarded against knight d5, and then we can castle queenside, or actually we can just take f6 as well. The knight will not have a way out from a1. If, for example, knight c2, king d2, knight takes a1, these two squares are covered. Okay, deciding on castles queenside, knight d5 is a bit better, but this is okay as well. Just decides to directly defend c2, and knight d5 is still a threat. Yeah, so black has to take action against this pin. h6, king e8, king f8. Otherwise, knight d5 check is coming with pretty decent effect. Jack taking his time, trying to come up with an idea. It is rather difficult to play black here. Knight d5 is coming, this pin is strong, and these pieces unfortunately do not contribute to the position in any way. So it's going to be difficult to unravel here, but not impossible. Okay, rook to b8, I must admit, is a very strange move. Not sure I understand the idea. Okay, so he wants to play king e6 and avoid knight c7 check with a fork. Okay, this seems like a very passive way to deal with the problem. In fact, knight c7 check could still be played. King d6 and then knight b5 check takes advantage of this new pin. Yeah, black's in a load of trouble here. Bishop takes f6 and c3 also playable. Does decide on bishop f6. Yeah, unfortunately this is just an abysmal position for black, I must say. No offense to Jack, but pieces back here are not contributing, and king is in the center, and lots of structural defects too. All these pawns I have highlighted here I would consider to be weak. So we'll see. Oh, I thought I stopped capturing my screen. I guess I did. Or I thought I stopped capturing my cursor. I guess it didn't work. Let me try to fix that again. Oh, I did. Okay, it already fixed, but I still see my cursor. Okay, no I don't. I was making it up. Okay, white decides on c3, dislodging this knight post. Knight goes back to c6, and now white should definitely be looking to attack the king here. g3, bishop h3, very strong idea. No matter what black does, he's going to have to line himself up with this strong rook on d1, and that opens the door for discoveries. Take this pawn for free. In fact, g3 is the only move to maintain the advantage. Yeah, that is spotted. Well played by Daniel. And bishop h3 check is just almost impossible to cope with. There's no way for this king to get out of dodge here. Bishop h3 check is coming with devastating effect. A well-played game by Daniel so far, except for the one mistake in the opening knight d6 check, but his opponent unfortunately wasn't aware of king e7. And yeah, anyway. Jumping out to an early lead here. It seems, if white goes on to convert this. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Okay, he does decide on king d6, and indeed there's not a wonderful discovery here for the knight. We could pick up the pawn, but the king is going to run back to c7. Bishop h3 should still be played here. Okay, he does decide on knight takes f6. So this is a small inaccuracy because the knight on d5 is actually stronger than it is on f6 because the knight on d5 was taking away these two squares from the king. After bishop h3, the king was in a spot where it had no legal moves. And now, white is still winning, of course, but bishop h3 was a little bit better. But it's still completely winning. White has just picked up an extra pawn, and these pieces are just having a difficult time. Yeah, after d6, bishop takes c8, rook takes c8, and black is getting squeezed positionally. White is up a pawn, and black still has this backward pawn. So, game should continue something like this. The knight's getting to f5, and we're just putting tremendous pressure on this backward pawn. And we're already up a pawn, and this rook doesn't have a future. It seems. We'll see. All right, bishop takes c8, rook takes c8 is on the board, and will he find the maneuver knight e3 to f5? Very strong maneuver. Also a strong plan is doubling rooks here on the d-file. White's just going to focus all of his attention on this weak pawn. I left the arrows on the screen. Oh, he's found 93. Well played. Very well played by white. Understands the position very well. Yeah, you're just going to target this basically for the rest of the game. All right. So the engine is offering a very interesting move, knight to d4, trying to take advantage of this pin, and after king b1 going knight e6. So interesting rearrangement of the pieces, and then after knight f5, rook c6, black is trying to hold things together, just trying to keep this d6 pawn. Losing the d6 pawn and being down 2 pawns is not going to be survivable, it seems. White has demonstrated he understands the position very well. Oh wow, knight d4 has been played. Very interesting. King b1, very good. Getting out of this pin. Hello, Chip Tennis. Yes, Daniel is indeed in a crushing position. Daniel is up a pawn and playing against this backward pawn. Yeah, unfortunately the knight on b5 is just not sustainable. a4, very easy move to disrupt the knight. Knight will have to move away, and we're just going to keep... he could take the pawn right away, but probably he'll jump in with knight f5 first. Knight f5 creating a stronger threat. Pawn will be indefensible then, and knight takes d6 would be a fork if allowed. So white should go on to win this one. I would expect resignation at any moment. Can't say for certain if Jack will resign. Again, I'm not familiar with these players, but at the top level, probably Black would have resigned at this moment because already down a pawn. Rook on h8 is not playing, and the d6 pawn is going to be left for good. Indeed, it was a very Sveshnikov line. I guess Black was not aware of king e7. King e7 was the critical move, but he played bishop takes d6 very quickly and found himself in this worse position. I don't know if they're taking a break in between games, but hopefully Black will have some time to look at this line. Yeah, king e7 is the refutation to knight d6, where Black emerges with equality. I can go back and show that. So in this position, Black played a pretty offbeat move, bishop c3. A3 far and away the most common move, where White will take the bishop pair and be very happy there. But instead, knight d6 check was chosen. This was the first and only mistake that White made this game. King e7 was critical, and yeah, we just have a lot of threats here. The knight is under fire. Knight is putting pressure on the e-pawn. The c3 knight is in a pin. So knight f5 check can be played, king f8, and then Engine is looking for some repetition with knight d6. And if bishop d2, bishop takes, b takes. We could go in for this pawn right away, but that's pretty complicated after queen g4. Engine is suggesting d6. And yeah, completely equal position. Could have been anyone's game here. Okay, so we have a result. Jack decided to resign, and we'll be going to game 2. 1 point to Daniel. I don't know if I'm going to be getting a new link to a new game or not, or if this board is going to be updating. Okay, I'm being told that I need to toggle to the next game, so hopefully I will be getting a link here. Sorry, just playing with some settings here. There we go. Okay, they're starting game 2 right now. You might need to toggle to the next game. Okay. How would I do that without a link? Oh no! Not ideal. Yeah, absolutely. Chip tennis. Let me text the players and see if they're gonna send me a new link to the second game. Oh, goodness. They might not be able to respond to me because they might be playing right now, and I don't know if I can... okay. Alright, here we go. Nope, I was able to figure it out by myself. Okay, so let me go back through and see what happened. Jack is now playing with the white pieces, decides on the English opening. E5, probably the most testing move to this variation. We get down into basically a reverse Sicilian. Knight b6 is a very good move. Just getting out of this pressure. Keeping pieces on the board definitely keeps some tension in the position. And we're getting some moves rather quickly. This setup with e3 knight ge2 seems quite... just doesn't strike me as very harmonious. This Stark squared bishop is struggling quite a bit. Probably it would have been better to play d3 or try to get in a position where you're gunning for an early d4. But d3 is definitely more harmonious in this structure. You give the bishop some scope. You prevent a future e4 push. Knight stabilize the knight position on f3. Okay. Players are making moves very quickly. Actually, the engine here is more interested in this queen d3. This is a hole in white's position, and this queen seems like it's going to be kind of difficult to disrupt. Bishop e4, queen a6, keeping the queen trained on this diagonal. Could have been an interesting way to play. Alternatively, we could have started with this h5, early h5 push, looking for h4, and trying to open this rook up towards a future castled king position. Bishop d6, also perfectly reasonable. Castles. Okay. Still as possible as h5 and eventually castling queenside, looking for a more dynamic position. The thing is with this same side's castle's position, it's getting rather stale. The only imbalance in the position is 3-2 in favor of black on the queen side, and then 4-3 in favor of white on the king side. But with so many pieces on board, probably we're going to see mass exchanges, and those pawn majorities probably won't play a factor in this game. But okay, obviously not wanting to lose a pawn here, so bishop e5 decides on bishop e7. This looks a bit more passive. Bishop was well placed in the center. But bishop e7 is okay. Now white can actually look forward to some kind of minority attack with a4, looking for a5 to disrupt this knight position. Perfectly reasonable. Additionally, we can give some scope to this bishop with e4. Looking to get the bishop out here, maybe coordinate on c7, also playable. But yeah, pretty level game. On that note, I'm going to grab a beverage. The more I talk, the thirstier I get, so I'll be right back. White's still deciding on a move here. So in my eyes, very human-looking approach is Queen E2, Rook D1. Whoa, Knight D5. Yeah, this to me seems a little anti-positional. This knight on B6 doesn't really have any prospects on the B6 square, so allowing black to trade it off seems a little inaccurate. If I could just go back here, Queen E2 is what I was looking at, looking for Rook D1. Engine says this is playable, Queen C8, Rook D1, and then perhaps trying to trade off the light squared bishop, or actually it says bishop G4 is quite strong, forcing F3, and then bishop E6. Yeah, I would be probably not too happy to play in this way. So, okay, Knight D5 instead. We are seeing trades. Oh, and this is the incorrect recapture, actually. This is allowing tactics. We have an unprotected knight. So, Knight E5 is a discovered attack. Knight C3, and then C6, bishop G2. Very big plus to black here. Yeah, the correct approach was queen takes. And then white's probably more than happy to exchange queens if this light squared bishop moves. For example, bishop E6, just trade the queens, and you know, looks like a pretty normal position. Chooses knight B4, also interesting. This is attacking the bishop. Well, he wants to trade his knight for the bishop, and it is a discovered attack on the knight, so knight C3 is forced. And black's going to enjoy an advantage with the bishop pair in a position where we already have some light squared weaknesses, and the bishop is not going to be around to defend them. So, also very good move. We'll see. I guess one alternative here is bishop c4, but after c6, knight c3, b5, bishop is getting disrupted here. Bishop e2, bishop h3, and we can already start kind of coordinating on these light squared weaknesses. Big plus to black. Okay, he does decide on knight c3, well done. Knight takes d5, or yeah, knight takes d5, queen takes d5. Yeah, white is deciding to exchange in a position where he's positionally worse. Yeah, black's minor pieces are just better than white's minor pieces. Okay, e4 looking to close up this diagonal, but f5 is a very strong reply, trying to open that one back up. Probably if two engines playing, white can hold this, but okay. So this move turns out to be a mistake. Better was f5, trying to reopen this diagonal. Now bishop f4 is strong, targeting the c7 pawn. Chip tennis, I actually don't have an established rating. I don't play enough chess. I do a lot more teaching than I'm doing playing, so. Yeah, my rating is still provisional. Alright, Rook E1. Okay, so I guess white was afraid of this and then losing the pawn, but probably black doesn't want to trade into an opposite colored bishop situation. So he played rook e1 to defend the pawn, but better was bishop f4. Now after rook fe8, bishop f4 can still be played, trying to target the c7 pawn. And he plays f3, so he's really concerned about losing this this e-pawn, but the opposite colored bishop position should be... It's difficult for black to make progress there because he doesn't have a way to control the dark squares. So even up a pawn, if it's an opposite colored bishop situation, it could be easily drawn for white. Okay, rook d3. Oh, thanks, Chip Tennis. Appreciate it. Oh, this turns out to be a huge error. Yeah. Letting go of the f-pawn like this, that's going to be trouble. Yeah, losing the f-pawn like this, and then suddenly all of black's pieces are coordinating against the king. Yeah, he finds rook takes f3, well done. Yeah, suddenly bishop takes c3, and then taking this is going to be really strong. Oh no, now bishop d4 check. Ugh. Yeah, bishop d4 check. All of the pieces are starting to swarm around white's king. Huge, huge plus. King is going to get flushed to h3, where I have bishop d7 check. And these bishops just going to be absolute monsters around this king. No defense over there on the king's side. Yeah, h5, bishop d7, and rook takes b2, all completely winning. This king is just not going to find safety over here. Now white must play g4 to stay in the game. King h4 leads to a very easy mate in 2. Bishop f6, and then rook takes h2 is checkmate. Yeah, if I can give any advice to Jack, I would just say he needs to take more time. It's a 25-minute game, so being in emerging with a losing position with 20 minutes left is not doing your due diligence, I feel. Should take some more time to identify all of your opponent's threats and ideas. Again, I'm not familiar with the players, I'm not familiar with their ratings, but just as a bit of practical advice, gotta take more time in critical positions. Like bishop f4 I think was played rather quickly, assuming there's no relay issues. Like just king f2 trying to stay in the game this way. And then, you know, this position here, it's white's down a pawn, but again, the opposite colored bishop situation where there's not an obvious attack on the king, and white is starting to create threats of his own. Yeah. White is in a just devastating position now, completely lost. Down too much material, and the king over here on h4 is not feeling too great. But I guess we'll see. Now we have to deal with multiple threats. Rook takes h2 and bishop takes c3. Decides on knight d5. But, I mean, many roads lead to Rome here. Bishop takes g4, g2. Do not blunder with rook takes h2. Got a bishop here on c7. And it's possible I suggested it not paying attention. But yeah, there is a bishop here on c7, so do not play that. Okay, bishop f2. What would you guess their ratings are from play? Daniel strikes me as somebody that's close to 2,000 or more. No obvious errors except for the... like Daniel hasn't made a move that's blundered into a losing position. He played knight d6 in the first game, which is a mistake. And then instead of playing f5 in this game, he played bishop f6, which was a mistake. But he's not blundering into losing positions like Jack is, unfortunately. So I think Daniel is the stronger player, for sure. But it's possible Jack's just having an off day. Okay, the smoke has cleared and Black has found himself up the exchange. I hope the music isn't too loud. I apologize if it is. I did not check the audio beforehand. All right. Let's see how Black goes on to convert this. Still has plenty of time on the clock. Very active position. Lots of pressure mounting up on the e-pawn. And probably Black is going to have to abandon this pressure on the knight at some point because not making inroads there. So bishop f4 to stop rook h6 check, but the bishop is not protected here. Rook f2 can be played, disrupting this position. Actually, it looks like rook f2 is just winning material, because there's nowhere for the bishop to go. Looks like if bishop g3, rook h6 is just leading to checkmate. And bishop g5 also leads to checkmate, it looks like. Rook h2. Yeah, white has to start sacking pieces. Rook f2 was played. Well done. Yeah, he decides on bishop g3, but unfortunately that gives up the h6 square. So, this game should be ending here. Yeah, rook h6, f6 checkmate. Good game to Daniel. Daniel goes up 2-0 in the match if he finds f6. Although I haven't seen f6 played on the board. Yep, there it is. Okay. Alright. A difficult mountain for Jack to climb, but not impossible. Not impossible. We'll see if they're starting the next game quickly. Not sure if they were playing a best of 3 or not. Yeah, I haven't seen that they started the next game. I mean, if there was anything to take away from this game, I guess we can look back quickly. this knight d5 idea turned out to be pretty toothless. Wasn't able to generate any threats, just offering exchanges. And then, yeah, just forgot about the unprotected nature of this knight. The other knight on c3 was defending that knight, so once it left the board, suddenly there was tactical opportunities surrounding this unprotected knights. And then further on in the game, white decided to keep trading pieces. Bishop f6 was not the best move. F5 was looking to be played here, trying to give this bishop some more scope, trying to coordinate on these weakened light squares in a position where white simply does not have a light squared bishop. And then, yeah, bishop f4 played very quickly, trying to attack the c7 pawn, but unfortunately the f3 pawn was providing shelter to the king, did not want to give that up. And then, yeah, after this error, black just went on to viciously attack the king, picked up some pawns, and then weaved a very nice mating net. So, well played to Daniel. Let's see if they are starting. I still don't see a game 3. So I guess we will continue to wait. Unless it was a best of 3, the players will confirm, I hope. Okay, audience, they are taking a 10-minute break, so I guess we will be back in 10 minutes. As we wait for the... let me see if I can do... I guess I can put something up on the screen here. Looking for an appropriate font. Back in 10 minutes. And surprisingly, that fits. Let's do center. Let's do center. And then I guess I need to... What do I need to do? I guess I can do that. And then make the outline bigger. Oh. 20 or less. Okay. There we go. All right, a 10-minute break. That means I will be taking a 10-minute break as well. So I will be back. Thank you for tuning in if you're currently watching, and we will see what happens as we eagerly await for Game 3. Back in a bit. All right. I don't know if the players are back yet. Oh, looks like they are. Oh no, they are not. They have not started playing. This is the link to the new game. All right. I don't know if the players are back yet. Oh, it looks like they are. Oh no, they are not. All right, they should be back in just a couple of minutes. Hope you all are doing well. I see some new people tuned in. Hello, Carlos the Rook. Yes. Let's give Jack our endless support as he tries to fight back in this match. Remove this. There we go. Now that's not blocking the screen. Hope you all are doing well. Just a quick recap. I guess I can go through the games quickly. So this is game one. It was a Sveshnikov. Black played an interesting sideline with bishop to b4, which actually did bring white out of book for a move. Knight d6 check actually turns out to be a mistake because black has this nice move king e7 with equality, but unfortunately black played bishop takes d6, which is really not in the spirit of playing bishop b4. And then after we saw some trades, black was already saddled with positional weaknesses. We have a backward pawn on d6. We have trouble castling. So we saw the exchange of queens, and then white started coordinating on d5. Knight d4 was also a big mistake, and then we saw a few more moves. And eventually, white was able to capitalize on his extra pawn and the structural defects in black's position. And then, after a4 disrupting the knight position, black decided to resign. And then in game 2 of the match, we saw an English opening where the opening went pretty okay. I made comments about e3 not being harmonious in the structure, but everything is still okay for white. Got a few more moves in. White traded in the center. White actually went on to get a pretty sizable advantage here. Needed to activate the dark squared bishop with b3 and an eventual bishop b2, but instead played knight b5, trying to scoop up the bishops. Whoops, I did not mean to do that. This trade was voided, and then knight d5 was a positional mistake, offering a trade for the c3 knight and for the b6 knight. And then we saw a tactical exploitation because the knight on b5 is unprotected. Knight b4 is going to secure the bishop pair. White found knight c3, which was good. And then we got a few more moves in, and the bishops just reigned supreme. White tried to block the diagonal. We got a few more moves in, and then this bishop f4 move was played very quickly. This was the decisive error. After rook takes f3, black is just picking up a pawn and has too much activity surrounding the king, and that was capitalized on very quickly. Got a few more moves in there. Black scooped up some pawns. Bishop f2 forked the king and the rook. Black won the exchange. Got a few more moves in there, and black was able to weave a very nice mating net. Rook f2, trying to disrupt the bishop's control of the h6 square, which unfortunately was not seen. Bishop g3 gives up control of the h6 square, which allows a mate in 2. And we stand in the match at a score of 2-0 in favor of Daniel. And we will see what happens in game 3, which already has some moves. Oh no. Okay, let's see what happened in this one. We have an e4, e5 game. We have Scotch Gambit. Not too common at the top level. Knight f6, far and away the most testing move, activating a piece, trying to put pressure on this e4 pawn, trying to scoop it up. And after e5, the only good move for black would be d5, counterattacking the light squared bishop, activating this bishop, asking this bishop where it would like to go, and then after we address the threat on the bishop, the knight can go to e4. And this position would remain level. Instead, we got d6. This appears to me as very passive, not trying to hold on to that extra pawn, blocking the diagonal for the dark squared bishop. Get some exchanges, and this position should be about equal. Black has the 2 bishops for a structural defect, but as some more trades come in, this should liquidate to basically nothing. This is a very aggressive looking move, this e5 move. But honestly, you know, e5 kind of overextends the pawn. Okay, now I want to go back and just demonstrate. Knight d7 was actually critical here, because if e takes d6, black is more than happy to undouble these pawns, and black will enjoy a nice advantage with the bishop pair in an open position. But instead, we saw bishop takes f3 very quickly, which I don't love. Black enjoyed the bishop advantage and has given that up. Now white has recaptured with an attack on this weak pawn. D takes e5, queen takes c6, and this was, we are waiting for black's 14th move. This position is about equal, but it should be a bit of a plus to white because black has these structural defects. These pawns are isolated. We have multiple pawn islands. Okay, I guess the e5 pawn is technically not isolated, but we do have isolated pawns here on the queen side. White is finding quick development against black's pieces, and yeah, just a positional advantage to white having no structural defects. But we'll see how the game shapes up. It's still anyone's game here. The only criticism I have for the players is that it's 25 minutes and they don't seem to be taking that amount of time. They seem to be moving very quickly in positions that are very critical. Let me see just the time usage on bishop takes f3. Yeah, it looks like not a lot of time was spent on that move. Okay, but here we are. Okay, so we do have a pin, and we have a strong queen position on c6, so queen e8, queen d7, trying to challenge that queen would have been ideal. Rook to b8. You know, optically it looks good, but you're not really asking questions to these pieces of whites that are taking away squares, applying pressure, and really wreaking havoc. Now knight d5 is a strong move, coordinating on the pin. That's why the pin should have been addressed on the previous move. But we'll see what happens from here. He does decide on knight d5. More than okay sacrificing this pawn because the king safety is going to come into question. Queen e8 is the only move for black to try to stay in the game. All other moves lead to a losing position. You have to strike up, and there it is. Not a lot of time spent on rook takes b2 either. Yeah, unfortunately the coordination here on f6 is too strong. Queen e8 was necessary to get out of the pin and try to throw a punch at the queen. And if queen takes queen were played in that position, we could play knight takes. I could just go back and demonstrate that real quick. So in this position, if queen e8, we do have a punch thrown at the queen. Queen takes e8 is the only move for white to maintain an advantage. And then knight takes e8. This is still a big plus to white. After bishop e7 check takes king h8. Looks like the rook is going to be infiltrating on the 7th rank after we deal with this pressure on b3. Because of the disconnect between the rooks, and I'll just take it a couple more moves. If knight d6 here trying to block the file, knight c6, rook e8, and rook d5, and this pawn is coming into question. So yeah, also the rook can swing over here to a5. Big plus to white, taking advantage of these structural weaknesses. But rook takes b2 is played, and now we are saddled with this position where this king is going to come into question. And it looks like white has several avenues to reach it. Bishop h6 was played. Queen c3, very nice move. Not only attacking the rook, but threatening queen g3. Unfortunately, that rook is going to go down. And it looks like Daniel is going to go on to win this match. Yeah, so a sudden end. Unfortunately, the only you know, while Jack did make some tactical blunders, I must heavily criticize his time usage. Plenty of time to try to iron out these details and just simply isn't using it. And yeah, Daniel winning a convincing match here. Black's going to try to find some defense, but unfortunately you can't save the rook and stop queen g3, leading to checkmate. There's simply not a way to do it. Yeah, so it looks like Daniel's going to be winning the match. I don't know if we'll see game 4 or not. It's possible we will. They said they were going to play 4 games. Yeah, and we do have resignation. Well played to Daniel, going up 3-0 in the match like this. A convincing victory, I would say. Definitely demonstrating that he's the stronger player. So, you know, if there's anything to take away from this match, I would say that got to use the time better. You got plenty of time to calculate things and identify threats. And that time wasn't spent, unfortunately. But I don't know if they're going to play game 4. I don't see a link for game 4. But if it is the last game of the match, I will know here in just a second. Okay, they are playing game 4. Okay. So hopefully Jack can at least get a point back, right? That would be ideal. We'll see. Alright. We have the exact same start. E4, E5 game. Will we see a Scotch, or will we see an Italian, or a Roy, or a Four Knights, or something else? Oh, I have to update the score here. Let's see. A very commanding lead for Daniel. Okay, so we do see an Italian with castles kingside. Very, very standard. Yeah, very normal looking moves. D3, rook E1 could be played. Anything to address this. Okay, yeah, C3 looks like the right idea in a position like this, but the e-pawn is simply hanging, and there's not going to be enough compensation there. Now D5 is a playable move, as is ED. E takes, C takes, and then D5, and black's just comfortably up a pawn. We could take it a few moves further. Queen E2 trying to pin the knight. Queen E7. Queen takes C4. Bishop F5. And black is a comfortable lead in development here. Daniel taking his time, does play ED, and then we should see C takes D4. D5, the only move for black to maintain an advantage. All other moves are not going to pan out well, because we do have a threat to play D5 here. And there is an issue with this open E-file towards black's uncastled king. But we'll see if he comes up with it. Why is my cursor still being streamed? That's so weird. It's supposed to not show my cursor, and it's showing my cursor. Let me check one more time. Yeah, it's just not supposed to do that, but it's doing it. Okay. Well, now it's not. Oh no, an unfortunate miss. D5. He played bishop e7 and d5 was giving white a big initiative. Moving too quickly again. Yeah, you gotta value these attacking moves. Look, you're disrupting the knight on c6. After knight a5, bishop d3, this knight comes into question, and then queen c2, and now it's difficult to castle without hanging h7. And with this knight on d6 and the pawn on d7, this bishop is feeling the pain. Knight on a5, offsides as well. This was a big advantage to white and a big miss. Yeah. Now d5 is played, now it's too late for white to try to get an advantage. Yeah, big plus to black. Just up the pawn now. If there was ever an opportunity, it was missed. Yeah. I don't like bishop takes c6. Optically looks not good, but also in a position where you're down a pawn, you're giving black the bishop pair. So I am not sure of this decision. Knight e5, bishop e8 should be played, preserving the bishop. Bishop d6 also a good move, but prefer to save the bishop. And b takes c6 is the only move. Queen is under fire here. Does decide on queen takes d6. This turns out to be a little inaccurate, but not a big deal. Okay, and f3 is a very poor move. Yeah, opening lines around the king. All right, now queen takes d4 can be played, but c5, and do not forget that this d pawn is now passed. There are no pawns opposing it, so it has a straight path to d1 to become a queen, if allowed. And we're seeing this, and d4 indeed should be played. Get that pawn in motion. We could also get the rooks to the e-file, also completely fine. d4 indeed. And are we going to get some more exchanges with knight e4? Knight takes and rook takes. Let's see if black can convert this extra pawn advantage. It's an extra pawn and a passed D pawn at that. And I don't see how white even generates threats. It looks like white just has to play a sit and wait approach while black tries to convert this extra pawn. Many approaches for black, producing a flight square for the king. Perfectly logical. A5 also logical, trying to break up these pawns and give some more scope to the rook. Sides on rook d1. Not sure what the rook is doing on d1. Doesn't really have a clear plan here. Rook c1 was preferred, at least trying to put pressure on something. Decides on b takes a4, but this is going to give the rook some entry points if allowed. Black does need to be mindful of his back rank weakness, but h6 perfectly easy way to deal with such a thing. Right. Don't know if I agree with trading queens when you're down material, but okay. Black should indeed take white up on this exchange, and then just try to win with the two passed pawns here. Oh no! What was that? Surely that was a relay issue. They're playing on a DGT board, so what did I miss? What? Hello? Maybe they're goofing off? It's possible they're goofing off. I don't know. But that was a very strange series of events. Also, why is Queen e6 a great move? In a position where queen takes rook was perfectly playable. Yeah, that was weird. Probably a relay issue. Yeah, if they wanted to achieve the same position after rook e5, queen e6, rook back, and then queen back, and then rook takes would have been the way to do it. And then after rook takes a2, it would have been white on move. If they were looking to resolve a relay issue. But okay, here we are. Oh. Suddenly black has allowed counterplay. Forgot about the back rank issue. Looking for rook b to b2, but that would have blundered mate. And now, okay, white can't take the d4 pawn clearly, but after a move like h4 producing luft, now you suddenly can. And don't forget about the a pawn, which is suddenly passed. Rook b5, also a very good move. Okay. Yeah, black correctly avoids the exchange. And we do have a way. h4, very well done. Now after rook e to e2, we can play rook g5, and the rook defends g2, and the pawn is still attacked here. Oh no. Are we getting more relay issues? Is there something wrong with this e5 square? Okay, we do see rook g5. The move was reverted back to g5. I think every time he slides the rook over e5, it wants to register that the rook is on e5. That's happened twice now. What is happening after rook takes a4? How does white hold this? It says rook g4. This does introduce a pin. That's pretty convincing. After h5, we can simply take, and then we're trading into a 3 versus 3 rook ending. Not a lot going on there. And I assume black knows that. What if we start with h5, looking to just prevent this? Then we simply take the pawn. Okay. Yeah, complete equality here. A big miss from black. Yeah, this is what we're seeing. Rook a4, rook g4. This is a double attack of the pawn, which is pinned to the rook on a4. No way to deal with this. It's going to liquidate into a position where it's 3 pawns versus 3 pawns on the king side with 2 rooks apiece. Should be easy draw for both sides. Engine is offering an interesting line with f5 takes and then rook a2 trying to get counterplay. It says rook d7 is sufficient. I would be afraid to play in this way, I must admit. But, yeah. The rook's starting to harass the king. Rook a8, rook c7, and then white is suddenly doing the same thing to black. We could be in for a long game here. And I suppose Daniel feels that he is the better player. He's going to try to grind this out to a win, but just no real way to make progress, it seems. I think if after king h2, rook a1, yeah, we simply move the rook, and then that produces a square for the king to run away to. Rook h1 is a threat, but many ways to deal with it. Yeah, decides on rook g5. Now the check is harmless. And yeah, this one's shaping up to be a sudden draw. I don't really understand what's happening here with the relay. I actually didn't see that earlier white hung his rook. Okay, so I think they're just goofing off because Daniel's won the match, but maybe it's a relay error. I guess we'll see at the end. Very strange. Excuse me. Very strange. Actually, I can ask the IT guy that's on site. And we'll see if he gets back to me. Oh. No, we see an error. Suddenly black can coordinate on g2. That's not ideal. Rook d2 needed to be played. Try to neutralize this rook on a2. Alright, we'll see if Daniel comes up with rook e2. Yeah, he does. He just goes on to collect the pawn. Nothing to do now. I wonder if Jack thought he could play rook f4 here, but unfortunately that leads to checkmate. Idea with rook f4 just simply to coordinate on the pin pawn, but yeah, king has no escape. The f4 square is the only way out for the white king. Okay, and it looks like we simply have a result. White resigned, and then Daniel goes up 4-0 in the match. Very sudden end to a very strange game. Hopefully the players or the IT guy on site will let me know if this was relay issues or if they were just joshing around having a good time. But yeah, very convincing victory for Daniel, going on to win 4-0 against Jack. Alright, I guess I am clear to end the stream because the match is over. 4 games, no tiebreak to look forward to. And yeah, thank you all for tuning in if you did. My name is Pat, providing commentary for this match. And hope you all enjoyed, and we will see you next time.